I think probably social media, because I never thought when we were making the shows that the clips would resurface. It's like, okay, we've done that, no one will ever see that again.
He built empires with a single glance, destroyed careers with 3 words. For over 2 decades, Simon Cowell has been the undisputed king of talent television, the man who decides who becomes a star and who fades into obscurity. But here's what nobody talks about: the judges sitting right beside him, the ones who smiled for the cameras while battles raged behind the scenes, the ones who challenged him, confronted him, and paid the price for it. This isn't about contestants. This is about the people who sat at his table, shared his spotlight, and discovered that working with Simon Cowell comes with a cost most of us never see. Who were they? What did they do that crossed the line? And why is Simon finally speaking out about the 5 judges who tested him like no one else? By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of entertainment's biggest names would rather walk away from millions than spend another day in that chair. The Architect. Before the scathing critiques and the multi-million-dollar deals, Simon Cowell was just a restless kid in Hertfordshire, England. Born in 1959, he wasn't the student teachers praised or remembered fondly. School bored him. Authority annoyed him. Rules felt like suggestions. His father, Eric Cowell, worked as an executive at EMI Music Publishing. His mother, Julie, had been a ballet dancer and socialite. Simon grew up surrounded by the music industry's glamour, yet he constantly pushed against expectations. At 8 years old, he was already experimenting with rebellion, drinking, smoking. He once nearly burned down his family home trying to prove to his brother that Santa Claus didn't exist. That's the kind of child he was, desperate to challenge everything, to prove everyone wrong. By 16, Simon left school with basic qualifications in English language, literature, and sociology. Most teenagers would have been terrified. Simon saw freedom. His father got him a job in EME's mailroom. Most people would have seen it as charity, a handout from Dad. Simon treated it like his personal university. He watched how songs were marketed, how talent was discovered, how money actually moved through the industry. He wasn't interested in being famous. He wanted something far more valuable: control. Through the 1980s, Simon climbed slowly through talent scouting and music production. He failed repeatedly, lost money, made terrible bets on artists nobody wanted, but each failure taught him what worked and what didn't. Are you starting to see the pattern? This wasn't someone building a career through luck or connections. This was calculated obsession. Simon's breakthrough came with Pop Idol in the early 2000s. Suddenly, he wasn't behind the scenes anymore. He was in front of millions every single week, delivering critiques that either crushed dreams or created superstars.
And then he kind of got me.
Yeah.
And we sort of got this communication, and then he started talking to me, and now we're buddies.
The world couldn't look away. But here's what made Simon different. He understood that the show wasn't really about finding singers. It was about creating drama, tension, and stories that viewers emotionally invested in. In 2004, he launched The X Factor. Unlike Pop Idol, this wasn't limited to solo singers. Simon introduced categories: boys, girls, over 25s, and groups. Each judge mentored their own category. Why does this matter? Because Simon had just weaponized competition. The drama wasn't just in the auditions anymore. It was in the relationships between judges, the ownership they felt over their contestants.
I mean, Brittany in particular, the first, because there's a lot of people in the arenas where you do these auditions, and the first time she said no to someone.
The rivalries that developed. Then came Britain's Got Talent in 2007. Now, he wasn't just looking for singers, dancers, magicians, comedians, performers nobody expected. They all had a platform. And sitting at the center of every decision, every controversy, every headline was Simon Cowell. By the time Simon was firmly established, he wasn't just a judge. He was a force that shaped how modern talent television worked. He decided who got hired, who got fired, who stayed relevant, and who disappeared. Every gesture, every comment, every raised eyebrow reinforced the power he held, not just over contestants, but over everyone who worked with him. And that's where the problems began. Because when you create an empire built on your personality, your vision, your control, what happens when someone at your own table challenges you? The judges who dared judge one. Paula Abdul, the intimate tension scandal. Let's start with the woman Simon claimed he couldn't even share an airplane with. Paula Abdul wasn't just any judge. She was the original female voice on American Idol from 2002 to 2010, sitting alongside Simon and Randy Jackson, the dream team that turned a singing competition into a cultural phenomenon. Paula had already lived a full career before Idol. She'd choreographed for Janet Jackson and the Jacksons. She'd had her own chart-topping music career through the 80s and 90s.
At times, but when he's in a bad mood, I make sure that I stay far, far away from him.
She knew the entertainment industry inside and out, but sitting next to Simon Cowell, that was different. From day one, they were opposites. Paula was warm, empathetic, encouraging. Simon was cold, calculating, brutal. Together, they created television magic, but behind the scenes, something else was brewing. So in 2011, Simon sat down with Barbara Walters and dropped a revelation that shocked everyone. He claimed that during the first 2 seasons of American Idol, he and Paula couldn't travel on the same plane together. Not because of scheduling, not because of logistics, because, as Simon put it, they really disliked each other that much. But he didn't stop there. Simon went further, claiming their friction was caused by intimate tension on her part. When Walters pressed him, Simon laughed and said Paula wanted him 1,000,000%.
Something original that made history.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything evolves.
Can you imagine your coworker going on national television and claiming you had romantic feelings for them while simultaneously suggesting you weren't worth their time? Simon's exact words, "I considered it, but then I thought, I don't think the after would be as good as the before." This wasn't playful banter. This was public humiliation dressed up as entertainment. But there was a moment when their dynamic completely flipped. In 2005, a former contestant named Corey Clark claimed Paula had coached him privately and engaged in an inappropriate relationship during his time on the show. Fox launched an investigation. Paula denied everything. The investigation found no evidence of wrongdoing, but the damage was done. Headlines screamed accusations.
And I had to take 7 years off, and then I reappeared on American Idol.
Paula's reputation was dragged through the mud, and Simon, he became her fiercest defender. Paula later said, "He was extremely distraught and protective and supportive of me when that happened." It was a rare glimpse into a side of Simon most people never saw. The man who, when it truly mattered, stood by someone he cared about. But that protection came with conditions. The public performance of their relationship continued. Paula admitted the job took a toll. Being the only woman on the panel placed her in a unique position. Some days, she'd lock herself in her dressing room just to escape. The question lingers, did Simon protect Paula because he valued her, or because losing her would have damaged his show? Judge 2. Sharon Osbourne, the too old rejection. If Paula tested Simon's patience, Sharon Osbourne tested his ego. Sharon was never one to blend into the background. Before The X Factor, she'd managed the chaos of her husband Ozzy Osbourne's rock career and become a reality TV star through The Osbournes. She was outspoken, fearless, and completely unafraid of confrontation. When she joined Simon's panel, it seemed perfect. 2 strong personalities, both unfiltered.
So strong and so powerful and successful as your father, you look up to them.
Both ratings gold. But over time, cracks appeared. In 2019, Sharon revealed something devastating. She claimed Simon had rejected her from The Masked Singer US, citing her age as the reason. Here's how it happened. Sharon had been offered a position on The Masked Singer, but she was contractually bound to another X Factor season with Simon. She had to decline. Then Simon suddenly canceled that X Factor season. By the time Sharon was free, The Masked Singer had moved on. She'd missed a major career opportunity. According to Sharon, Simon told producers, "She's old. We need somebody young." Let that sink in. A woman who'd built her career on talent, experience, and authenticity was dismissed because of her age. Not her ability, not her contribution to the show.
People are being too you think people are being too nice on these shows?
Oh, for God's sake, I'm seeing some guy that looks like me.
Her age. In a 2024 appearance on Celebrity Big Brother, Sharon told Lewis Walsh she felt furious, and fuming about being dropped. The wound was still raw years later, but Sharon's grievances went deeper than one incident. She went on record claiming the entire environment at the X Factor and America's Got Talent operated as a boys' club, where the boys take care of each other and the women are not paid as much as the men. Even more damning, Sharon suggested Simon had orchestrated feuds between female judges.
This is us now, compared to 18 years ago. This is the way we are now, you know.
Particularly between herself and Dannii Minogue, to create dramatic television moments. On The Talk, in 2017, Sharon called Simon snotty and claimed he only surrounds himself with his little posse. When asked if she'd ever work with him again, Sharon declared she wouldn't do it for all the money in the world. Think about that. Someone who'd worked closely with Simon, who understood his world, wanted nothing to do with him anymore. Why? Because, as Sharon put it, no disrespect to Simon Cowell, but he needed me for musical credibility on X Factor, and I delivered for him. She wasn't wrong. Judge 3. Mel B. The drink-throwing incident. Mel B had already lived more than most before she joined America's Got Talent. As Scary Spice from the Spice Girls, she'd conquered pop music. As a television personality, she commanded any room she entered. When she joined AGT, she wasn't there to blend in. Mel B came with presence, personality, power, and she didn't back down from Simon Cowell. August 2017. After a performance that didn't impress him, Simon turned to Mel and said, "I kind of imagine this would be like Mel B's wedding night. A lot of anticipation, not much promise or delivery." The audience laughed. The other judges smiled awkwardly. Mel B threw her drink directly at him. Was it an overreaction? Not according to Mel.
You have to go through the whole ceremony, and I've been practicing my what, because the vergers, is that how you say it?
She'd just watched a performance by Evie Claire, a young girl whose father was dying of cancer. Mel's own father had recently passed from cancer after an 89-year battle. She was emotionally raw. As Mel explained later, "I went from crying about this beautiful performance to Simon saying something so rude and inappropriate." Host Tyra Banks tried to minimize it, suggesting Simon teases Mel B as if she were his younger sister. But Mel wasn't having it. In an interview afterwards, she said, "He should know, if you say something inappropriate."
But also when it had like a nice moral meaning at the end of it. And this is so adorable.
He's gonna get stuff thrown at him. I told him he was an asshole, and that was it, and he goes, "Oh, whatever." That "oh, whatever" reveals everything. Simon didn't take her seriously, didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge he'd crossed a line. Fast forward to 2024 to 2025. New tensions emerged, this time involving Mel B's relationship with fellow judge Sofia Vergara. According to production sources, Mel B and Sofia have an icy, off-camera relationship. During March audition tapings, Mel B barely acknowledged Sofia and wouldn't make eye contact with her.
Yeah, and I probably am still healing and learning from that whole entire experience.
Instead, Mel spent most of her time talking to Howie Mandel or walking around to chat with Simon. Sound familiar? Female judges not getting along while the men remain friendly? It's a pattern Sharon Osbourne had described years earlier. Was this Mel B's fault? Sofia's fault? Or had the environment Simon created made collaboration between female judges nearly impossible? Judge 4. Dannii Minogue, The Betrayal and the Breakdown. This is perhaps the most tragic story of all. Dannii Minogue joined the X Factor panel in 2007. She was talented, accomplished, and ready to prove herself. What followed was a 4-year nightmare that left her emotionally shattered.
An entertainer, there's some people who keep the same look and then others just want to change all the time.
In Tom Bauer's biography, Sweet Revenge, The Intimate Life of Simon Cowell, a disturbing claim appeared. Simon allegedly said of Dannii, "She'll be the new toy," and described her with words like, "I had a crush on her. It was Dannii's hair, the intimate clothes. I was like a schoolboy." Those quotes position their professional relationship in a completely different light. Dannii later admitted she hadn't spoken to Simon since the book's publication. As she told The Telegraph, "I didn't know anything about the book, and I didn't expect that level of betrayal." But it wasn't just the book that destroyed their relationship. It was the environment Simon created. In 2019, Dannii revealed her experience on The X Factor.
On the chin like a man and gets up there and just carries on with this incredible talent that he has.
Was devastating. She said, "I was not at a breaking point. I was broken. Not stressed, not overwhelmed. Broken." The core of Dannii's suffering stemmed from her relationship with Sharon Osbourne, who had documented history of attacking her. But here's the critical detail. Sharon's public attacks didn't happen in a vacuum. They happened on a show Simon Cowell controlled. And according to Dannii, individuals were conspiring to make that happen, with her suffering providing entertainment value. In her autobiography, Dannii described sitting next to Sharon each Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be into the stage performing and stuff. So yeah, sports.
"I felt as if I was back at primary school, when I was forced to sit next to the school bully." Sharon made vicious claims in her own autobiography, writing, "She clearly felt shagging Simon gave her vicarious power, and it was so immature, not to mention deeply irritating to deal with." Think about what that implies. Dannii's position on the show wasn't because of her talent or credentials. It was because she allegedly slept with Simon. That narrative became toxic gossip that undermined everything she worked for. Here's what makes this different. Simon never publicly defended Dannii, never shut down the rumors, never used his power to protect her the way he'd protected Paula Abdul. Instead, there's evidence he allowed the rumors to persist because they served the show's drama. Biographer Tom Bauer wrote that Simon had genuine love for Dannii during their time as judges together. So, the rumors might not have been entirely unfounded, but they were weaponized against her regardless. Dannii was left in an impossible position, demonized by fellow judges, undermined by gossip the show implicitly endorsed, working in an environment where her professional contributions were constantly questioned. She felt trapped in a game she couldn't win. And Simon? He let it happen. Judge 5. Howie Mandel. The Golden Buzzer Wars. Some rivalries happen behind closed doors. Others unfold in front of millions. Howie Mandel has been part of America's Got Talent since 2010. The Canadian comedian brought humor, energy, and unpredictability to balance Simon's seriousness. For years, their chemistry seemed perfect. Simon was the stern mastermind. Howie was the crowd's fun uncle. Together, they created a rhythm fans adored. But in August 2024, something happened that exposed cracks in their relationship. During the season 19 live shows, an acrobatic dance group called Air Footworks delivered a stunning performance. All judges gave them a standing ovation. Then, Simon did something extraordinary and completely inappropriate. He stood up and announced to host Terry Crews, "I am just about to get myself fired." Then he reached across and hit the golden buzzer, sending Air Footworks straight to the finals. The problem? It wasn't his buzzer to give that week. Each judge is allocated one golden buzzer per week, and it was specifically Howie Mandel's turn. Howie had made the strategic decision to use his buzzer on Air Footworks. Simon literally tried to steal it. Howie's response was immediate. "I feel like I've been abused." What followed was a tense back and forth where Simon jokingly claimed he hit the buzzer first, while Howie urgently clarified, "This is mine! This is mine!" The moment was televised, dissected by fans, and revealed a troubling truth. Simon Cowell doesn't follow the same rules as everyone else. But this wasn't an isolated incident. Earlier that season, Simon demanded that judges be given 2 golden buzzers instead of 1, something that had never happened in the show's history. NBC gave in. All judges received 2 buzzers, then 3 in the live rounds. Simon didn't just break the rules, he rewrote them to suit his preferences. Behind-the-scenes reports suggest ongoing tension between Simon and Howie over decision-making authority and judging power. Simon appears to view his position as granting him privileges other judges don't enjoy. Whether it's demanding additional buzzers, making unilateral creative decisions, or steamrolling over colleagues' established roles, Simon operates as though rules are suggestions. And when fellow judges resist or assert their own authority, tensions flare. The pattern. Howard Stern, the warning. Nobody heeded. Before we conclude, we need to address Howard Stern's relationship with Simon Cowell, not because of personal conflict, but because of what it represents. When Howard Stern joined America's Got Talent in 2012, he was already a legend. The king of all media commanded $15 million per season. NBC even moved production from Los Angeles to New York to accommodate his daily radio show. Stern was brought in to create controversy, generate headlines, provide unpredictable entertainment. For a while, he and Simon's visions aligned. But Stern noticed something. By 2015, Stern started questioning how AGT was evolving under Simon's leadership. He told radio listeners he felt the program was becoming too controlled, claiming decisions about judges and contestants were increasingly guided by branding, not talent. When Stern departed, he publicly anointed Simon as his successor, saying, "Simon Cowell wants it anyway. He would be good at it." But over the years, Stern became increasingly critical. In 2019, when Gabrielle Union and Julianne Hough were controversially fired from the show, Stern didn't hold back. He directly accused Simon of orchestrating their dismissals and pointed out a blatant double standard. He has set it up that the men stay, no matter how old they are, no matter how fat they are, no matter how ugly they are, no matter talentless they are. But what he manages to do on all his shows is he constantly replaces the hot chicks with hotter chicks and younger chicks, which is so obvious. Stern's criticism echoed Sharon Osbourne's complaints about ageism and sexism, suggesting a systemic pattern. When Tyra Banks, Heidi Klum, and Mel B left AGT, the men, Terry Crews, Howie Mandel, and Simon, remained. The pattern was undeniable. What does this all mean? Let's step back and look at what we've discovered. 5 judges, 5 completely different personalities, 5 separate conflicts spanning nearly 2 decades. Paula Abdul, publicly humiliated with claims of intimate tension, protected when convenient, discarded when the show moved on. Sharon Osbourne, rejected for being too old, paid less than male counterparts, manipulated into feuds for ratings. Mel B, mocked on live television, emotionally raw moments turned into punchlines, isolated from fellow female judges. Dannii Minogue, psychologically broken by an environment Simon controlled, rumors weaponized against her, left without defense. Howie Mandel had authority undermined on live TV, watched rules change to benefit Simon, experienced public disrespect disguised as humor. Do you see the pattern? The reveal. Here's the truth Simon Cowell will never openly admit. These aren't 5 isolated incidents. This is a system, a power structure, built on control, maintained through manipulation, and protected by success. The unspoken rules of Simon's empire. Rule 1. Male judges are colleagues. Female judges are commodities. Look at the data. Male judges, Howie Mandel, Lewis Walsh, David Walliams, stay for years, sometimes decades. Female judges rotate constantly, replaced by younger or hotter options. Paula served her purpose for 8 years, then was phased out. Sharon was deemed too old. Dannii was psychologically destroyed. Mel B clashed and left. Gabrielle Union raised concerns about workplace culture and was fired. Meanwhile, Simon, Howie, and other male judges remain fixtures regardless of age, appearance, or even talent contribution. Rule 2. Personal relationships are leverage, not privacy. Simon's comments about Paula's intimate tension on national television, the rumors about Dannii that were never shut down, the wedding night joke about Mel B, these weren't slips of the tongue. They were demonstrations of power. Simon controlled the narrative, even when it came to his colleagues' personal lives. Rule 3. Conflict is content, and colleagues are expendable. Sharon Osbourne claimed Simon orchestrated feuds between female judges for ratings. Dannii said people were conspiring to create her suffering for entertainment value. Simon didn't stop the Sharon-Dannii feud because it was good television. He didn't defend Dannii because her pain generated headlines. He didn't apologize to Mel B because the drink-throwing incident went viral. In Simon's world, relationships are transactional. Loyalty lasts exactly as long as you're useful. Rule 4. The rules apply to everyone except Simon. The golden buzzer incident with Howie perfectly encapsulates this. Simon demanded more buzzers when the existing rules didn't suit him. Then he tried to steal Howie's designated buzzer on live television. When called out, he laughed it off. No consequences. No accountability. Because in the empire Simon built, he is the ultimate authority. Why this matters? You might be thinking, so what? These are all wealthy, famous people. They made their choices. But here's why this matters beyond celebrity gossip. This is about workplace dynamics, about how power gets abused when one person controls too much, about what happens when success insulates someone from accountability. Simon Cowell created incredible opportunities for thousands of performers. He revolutionized talent television. He discovered stars who might never have been found otherwise. But he also created an environment where colleagues, especially women, were devalued, manipulated, and discarded when they no longer served his vision. You can acknowledge both truths simultaneously. The broader industry impact. What makes Simon's behavior even more significant is how it influenced the entire entertainment industry. When the most successful talent show producer in history treats female judges as interchangeable parts, it sets a precedent. Other shows noticed. Other producers took notes. The revolving door of female judges became normalized across competitive reality television. From The Voice to Dancing with the Stars, we've watched countless talented women come and go while male hosts and judges maintain their positions year after year. Simon didn't invent sexism in Hollywood, but he perfected a business model that profited from it. He proved you could build a billion-dollar empire while publicly dismissing women's contributions, and the industry rewarded him for it with more shows, bigger contracts, and unprecedented creative control. Think about the message that sends to aspiring judges, particularly women. Your expertise matters less than your appearance. Your longevity depends on staying young. Your credibility can be undermined by rumors the show refuses to address. And if you speak up about mistreatment, you'll be labeled difficult, while the man who created the toxic environment remains untouchable. The 5 judges we've examined aren't outliers. They're symptoms of a system that values entertainment over equity, ratings over respect, and profit over people. The question nobody's asking: so did Simon Cowell actually name his 5 worst judges? No, he didn't have to. His actions over 2 decades named them for him. Every public comment, every contract not renewed, every time he rewrote rules to benefit himself, every woman pushed out while men remained. The 5 judges we've discussed, Paula, Sharon, Mel B, Dannii, and Howie, aren't the worst in terms of talent or contribution. They're the ones who dared to challenge the king of talent television on his own throne. Paula challenged him emotionally, creating complexity in a relationship he preferred to control. Sharon challenged him professionally, speaking publicly about ageism and sexism in his empire. Mel B challenged him in the moment, refusing to laugh off disrespect as just joking. Dannii challenged him simply by existing in a space where rumors could undermine her credibility. Howie challenged him by asserting equal authority on a show Simon considers his personal kingdom, and every single one paid a price for it. The legacy question. Here's what we need to consider. What will Simon Cowell's legacy actually be? Will he be remembered as the visionary who transformed talent television and discovered global superstars? Absolutely, that's undeniable. But will he also be remembered as the man who built his empire on the backs of colleagues he publicly humiliated, privately betrayed, and systematically undervalued? History is already writing that chapter. The entertainment industry is changing. The #MeToo movement exposed power imbalances that were accepted for decades. Younger audiences demand accountability from the figures they admire. Social media gives voice to people who were once silenced by contracts and NDAs. Simon Cowell built his empire in an era when shock value, controversy, and ruthless competition were celebrated without question. But we're living in a different time now. The same behaviors that made him legendary in 2002 look increasingly problematic in 2025. And the 5 judges who clashed with him? They're not footnotes in his story. They're evidence of what happens when unchecked power meets people brave enough to push back. The final verdict. Here's what we know for certain. Simon Cowell is a genius at creating television. He understands drama, tension, and storytelling better than almost anyone in the industry. He's built an empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars, But genius doesn't excuse behavior. Success doesn't justify cruelty. Ratings don't make manipulation acceptable. The 5 judges we've discussed aren't Simon's worst colleagues. They're his most honest mirrors. They reflected back aspects of his empire he'd rather keep hidden: the gender inequality, the age discrimination, the manipulation of personal relationships for content, the consolidation of power that leaves no room for equal partnerships. Simon Cowell may never publicly name his 5 worst judges, but the judges themselves have already told us everything we need to know. Your turn. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think these 5 judges were treated fairly, or did Simon Cowell cross lines that success and ratings don't justify? Were they the worst judges in his empire, or the bravest voices in a system designed to silence dissent? Should workplace standards apply to entertainment empires, or does creative genius operate by different rules? And here's the question that matters most. If you were offered a judging position on one of Simon's shows today, knowing everything you now know, would you take it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This conversation doesn't end here. It's just beginning. If this video opened your eyes to dynamics you hadn't considered before, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to see this. Subscribe and ring the notification bell, because we're diving deep into the stories entertainment tries to keep hidden. The truth is out there. You just have to be willing to look beyond the spotlight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.